It is 6 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 on this Friday, January 26th. I don't know. It's been pretty nice for us down here in bucolic Watertown. Sunshine, and I understand we're right at 60 degrees here. So
64 in Nashville.
I'm telling
nice,
you.
yeah.
What are we doing inside? Doing a show with Ray? We should be outside.
Right.
I should. This is almost a day where I've, a little early, I suppose, to put it around the pool. But I definitely loved it outside today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been nice. It's been cold, and now it's been rainy, and it's been gray, and nice break. Very nice break.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to put this in any more serious terms. But what is happening down on the southern border and is developing there on an hourly, minute-by-minute basis is really concerning. I mean, what you have here is you have the state of Texas, which has said, we are just sick and tired of the Biden administration not doing anything to protect us. And so we're starting to stand our ground. We've taken over this park in Eagle Pass, and we're going to be in control of that space. And the Border Patrol and the federal government now saying, well, we need access to that park. And then there's this whole standoff over the concertina wire. The Supreme Court gave the case back to the lower court, and most people read that as the federal government now has the right to start taking out the razor wire that's along the border that's been deployed by the state of Texas. The state of Texas says, no, that's not quite the way we look at it. And it looks like it's gonna come to loggerheads at some point down on the border, where the state of Texas is going to stand off with federal authorities. And I mean, my goodness, how many different ways could this go bad? What will happen when you add to that bit of knowledge that 25 Democrat governors have said that they will stand with the state of Texas. Some, I think, are planning to send down National Guard troops to support the National Guard troops from the state of Texas that are on the job down there. And what if the federal government decides to federalize those troops? Those National Guardsmen will have to make a decision about which side they're on. Are they going to go with the federal government? Or are they going to go with the state of Texas? I mean, there's big issues at play here. I don't want to project what might happen here, but it's already pretty tense, and I can see about a dozen ways it could get a lot tenser. This is epic proportion stuff. I don't think I'm overstating it. Now, I want to make sure you understand the state of Texas and its position. Because, everybody says, well, the Supreme Court ruled, and that's the highest court in the land. Well, the Supreme Court didn't really rule. It just simply kicked it back to the lower court. There was no opinion written by the Supreme Court. There was simply a decision to send it back to the lower court, and the last decision that came from the lower court was that, the wire could be cut. So let's look at this. And here is Greg Abbott. And I've cut about... It's almost 3 minutes of Greg Abbott trying to explain his position. And I think you'll find it interesting because I think he's got some really good points to make in his conversation here. Here is the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
So it was the states that created the United States. And when the states voted to create the United States and have a constitution, included in that agreement was the compact that the federal government would take care of the states. And Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution speaks to that and says that if the federal government does not take care of the states, and the states are in danger, well, we can ask the federal government to live up to its obligation. Then the authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense. And what Texas is asserting is our Article 1, Section 10 right of self-defense, because the President of the United States is not fulfilling his duty to enforce the laws passed by Congress that deny illegal entry into the United States. Because the Biden administration has really, truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws, Texas very simply is securing the border. And so we put up the razor wire that you were talking about. And we put up all these barricades that actually have denied illegal entry. Texas has a right as a state to stop criminals from coming into our state, to make arrests of those criminals. And we have National Guard as well as Texas Department of Public Safety officers who are there to make those arrests and to deny illegal entry. And Joe Biden actually does have an option here. Joe Biden's option is to enforce the laws of the United States and stop this illegal entry. If you look at what the Supreme Court actually issued, they didn't write any type of opinion. All they did was to vacate a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals order and to send it back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's two sentences. There was no opinion about anything about razor wire or what Texas is doing or anything like that. The Constitution itself provides Texas with a right of self-defense in this case because the United States has abandoned its responsibility to defend Texas. I don't know how and why the justices voted the way they did, but there seemed to be 4 justices who indicated at least an appetite to hear the case as is. There were no sentences or paragraphs or pages of an opinion written by the Supreme Court, so no one knows at all what they were thinking. All we know is they wanted to send it back to the Fifth Circuit.
So it's back with the Fifth Circuit now, and the governor is saying we're not backing down. And the Biden administration gave him a deadline. That deadline has come and gone, and the Attorney General of Texas is quoted today as saying, we're not going to pay any attention to that deadline. So how does this get resolved? At the White House today, Karine Jean-Pierre said, well, the Border Patrol needs access.
Just back to the border, does the administration think Texas is failing to comply with court orders around the placement and removal of razor wire?
Well, I mean, the Supreme Court is the highest, law, court of the land. It is. And they made a ruling, and on Tuesday, as you guys probably saw, DHS sent Texas a letter outlining the access Border Patrol needs in Shelby Park, for example, to do their jobs, and demanding Texas confirm this access will be honored. Border Patrol needs to have access in order to do their job. They just do. And, what we're seeing from Governor Abbott, you've heard me say this over and over again, they're making it harder. He's making it harder for Border Patrol to do their jobs. They need access. And right now, they don't have that. And it's under the Constitution of the United States that federal law is the supreme law of the land, and any conflicting state is preempted.
Well, she says the Border Patrol needs access to do their job, but with all due respect to the men and women on the front lines who are just following the orders of their superiors, they're not doing their job. They're simply not protecting the state of Texas and the United States from this invasion that's happening. And people are coming across. 8 million people are in this country now that are here illegally, and they are, they will never be adjudicated in a reasonable amount of time. Some people are getting, you'll have your court hearing in 7 years. That's what's happening. And then there's the whole matter of the 25 Republican governors who are in lockstep with Governor Abbott, including our own governor, Bill Lee. Will they send troops down there? Who knows? Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about this statement by the 25 governors that they stand with the state of Texas.
Does the president have any response to at least 25 Republican governors signing a joint statement supporting Texas in its standoff with the U.S. at the border?
So here's what I would say. My message to those, how many
Listen
governors
to this.
in that letter?
I believe it's 25.
25 governors.
She doesn't even know about the story. She has no idea about how can you be the press secretary of the White House and go out there and know that this is going to be the issue that everybody's going to be asking about, and you don't even read in. You don't even know that the 25 Republican governors have stated that they are going to side with the governor of Texas. I mean, that's astonishing to me.
I would say to them that, are they, you said Republican governors?
I mean, she didn't even know about it.
Yes.
I would say to them that if they truly want to help with the issue at the border, with the immigration system, that they need to talk to the congressional members, the senators in their state. That's what they need to do. They need to ask them to make sure that they have the resources they need within their respective states to take action, right? To actually deal with a broken system. The way that we deal with this is legislatively. The way that we deal with this is for Congress to act. And so that's what those 25 Republican governors need to do. They really want to help. They really want to assist. They really want to see change with the immigration system. They really want to fix the challenges that we see at the border. Then they should talk to their senators and their congressmen or congresswomen who are in their states. That's how we get this going. And we are appreciative of the senators right now, both Republican and Democrats, who are doing just that. And we want to come to a bipartisan agreement.
Well, she's talking about this big border deal that's being discussed between the administration and some senators. Some of them are Republicans. I can tell you right now that is going nowhere because whatever it is, and nobody has really articulated publicly what's on it, but listen to this. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said in a letter to his colleagues sent out today that Senate legislation addressing the border and aid to Ukraine and other countries would have been dead on arrival in the House if reports about its terms are true. The letter follows separate signals from House leadership aides and conservatives in the House and Senate that the supplemental package has no future in the House, even if it were to be approved by the Senate. I wanted to provide a brief update regarding the supplemental and the border, since the Senate appears unable to reach any agreement. If rumors about the contents of the draft proposal are true, it would have been dead on arrival in the House anyway. The letter comes as Senate Republicans are searching for an alternative plan on how to get Ukraine aid across the finish line. Of course, the House is saying, and Republican senators are saying, we're not giving you anything for Ukraine until you give us a fixed border. You've got to solve the problems down on the border. And they don't seem to be able to come to any terms on this. And even if they could, based on what we know, this package would have been dead the moment it arrived in the House of Representatives anyway. I mean, it's pretty unusual for the Speaker of the House that I haven't received anything, and I don't even know exactly what's in it, but if what I'm hearing is in it, it would have been dead if it ever got over here. So that whole thing is blown up, and they seem to be at loggerheads on that. So in the meantime, the administration's not getting Ukraine money. They're not getting money for Taiwan. They're not getting money for Israel. And by the way, the budget negotiations may blow up over this as well. They're just trying to get the budget passed. We've got a little time because they passed a CR recently that pushes it into March. But one way or the other, this thing is going to come to a head at some point, it seems. So you got the governors, 25 governors. Listen to what Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said. He suggested that, let's see, there's a call from former President Donald Trump suggesting that states send their National Guard to the Texas border. And the Oklahoma governor was on Fox this morning. This is just common sense. In Texas, 28 points of entry, and it's a federal law, and it's illegal to enter anywhere but those points of entry. Also, the fact the government, Biden, is cutting razor wire just makes no sense at all. So, yes, we have the right to defend our country against invasion. And what else would you call it? You've got 6 million people coming through illegally. And during his time in office, Stitt sent the Oklahoma Guard to Texas once before. And by the way, our governor has sent the National Guard to Texas once before and helped them with Operation Lone Star. So, it sounds as if these governors are all, standing with Abbott. They're outraged. And it sounds like that if the call came, I need help, that there'd be a lot of Republican governors willing to send the National Guard down there to stand off against the Border Patrol and the federal government. And then there is this, and thank you, Pamela Furr, for the tip on this one. There are apparently now a bunch of truckers who are thinking about putting together a caravan to go down there and show support for the state of Texas.
Well, the people that have organized this are the same people that went from California to D.C. with the truckers. I understand we're going to be joined by Canadian truckers. So these people are committed to a peaceful demonstration that we've had enough. The American people have had enough. We're demanding that the Biden administration do its job, enforce the laws on the books, and secure our border. 8 million people during the Biden administration. That's more than the population of Ohio. This is the time for us to rise up as the American people and demand that our president do his job.
That's U.S. Representative Keith Self speaking today. All right, 21, man, something else. This is a big deal. We got to keep an eye on this one. 21 minutes now, 22 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Two suspects at large after a 91-year-old woman was robbed right here in Tennessee, and Russia finding Ukrainian body parts and different documents near the site of a military plane crash. That's what's coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Mac Maury in the newsroom with all the stories, and then he also makes an extra appearance here. And we don't pay him a penny for it. He doesn't. He does it for free out of the love. Mac Maury's wild world of sports, and that's at 5:25 each day. You know, look, we understand that this is a news talk operation, but sometimes there is sports that makes news.
That's exactly right.
And so we like to give you a slice of all the things that are in your life, and lately it's been a lot of good stuff about the Titans and the big power structure changes over there, and the new head coach and all that. So he'll be back, to do the news, but also at 5:25, you might want to join us for all that. We got a lot of things to talk about here today. Let me just run through some of them. Natural gas energy is a big topic of discussion because the Biden administration has said you can't export natural gas right now, shutting down a very lucrative industry. And again, it's another one of those salvos in the Biden energy war against carbon-based fuel. So there's that. 2024, man, there's a new report out about how it would shape up between Trump and Biden. You don't want to miss that one. And of course, Marcia Blackburn will be with us at 5:05 to talk about, the border situation, but also why she does not want TikTok to come to Nashville, Tennessee. Just a few of the things that we'll be covering over the course of the next few hours of this program. And, of course, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway.
Of course.
This is Friday, and so we have not one, but two rounds of Phone Your Farb Friday, which I realized the acronym for that is PUFF. Well, if you pay, if you as you are.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking phone with an F. It's like puff.
So if you go with your, I mean the short, all the hip kids do.
Yeah.
They talk in a lingo. So your is not Y-O-U-R. It's you are.
That's true.
And I like to be on the cutting edge, of all the hip stuff. So, anyways, so we'll do that, and that's where you get to just talk about whatever's on your mind, within boundaries, because it is a family show, and we want you to be clear, concise, cogent, and every once in a while there can be comedic.
Yeah, only if it's good, though.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, if you think you're a riot, but other people often tell you, that's not really funny, then don't try it.
Yeah, don't embarrass yourself.
No. Comedy, doing something that's truly funny is it's hard to know if you're really funny or not. And if other people tend to not laugh at your jokes, then don't try to be funny.
Yeah, just save yourself the embarrassment.
Yeah, because we don't want to. But if you truly do have a gift, and you see something that's going on in the world around you, and you see the absurdity of it, and you find some humor in it, well, we'd love to have that. We would. All right, so there, Marcia Blackburn, 5:05. Again, the border standoff story is huge. We'll revisit that before the end of the show. I promise you. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 60 degrees in Nashville and still expecting showers this weekend. A weather forecast, traffic report headed your way in 5 minutes. Starting with a crime story right now here in Tennessee, a 91-year-old woman was robbed at a Truist Bank off of Whites Creek Pike this afternoon. She tried to run away. She was pushed down. They took her money. 2 suspects are at large from this. Well, 32-year-old DeAndre Robinson was arrested in this crime. 2 hours before this, a similar crime was reported at the Truist Bank in Brentwood. Robertson was seen at that crime as well. This is an active investigation for those two. And Russia says it found Ukrainian documents and tattooed body parts in the area where a Russian military plane crashed on Wednesday in Estela Katera.
Moscow says the plane had been carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war that were en route to be swapped for Russian prisoners. It says Kyiv shot down the plane. Ukraine hasn't commented much on the incident, saying only there is no proof of who was on board. Russia's state investigative committee claims body parts are now being collected and will be genetically tested. Only Russia can access the crash site.
And weeks after a private company's failed attempt to put a spacecraft on the moon, NASA is celebrating the unqualified success of another project millions of miles away from the lunar surface. Jim Ryan.
It was July 2020.
And liftoff.
The little helicopter called Ingenuity was launched into space along with the Perseverance rover. 6 months later, video of Ingenuity flying around the Martian surface. 3.5 years in,
what started as a technology demonstration with plans for only up to 5 flights has now completed a remarkable 72 flights on Mars.
NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says Ingenuity broke a rotor and has now finally flown its last mission.
And that is the latest news, weather, traffic report up next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let's talk about Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you will know exactly how much the care is before it's delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you marry this with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could save you and your family a bunch of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is also a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted best primary care provider year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. It's shocking to me that in the last administration we finally got serious about becoming energy independent. We got to the point where we were exporting more oil because we had so much of it being produced in the United States. We didn't have to import as much. In fact, we were exporting oil, and we were meeting our needs, and we were on the pathway to doing that. And then we get a new president, and all of a sudden these onerous burdens start getting placed on energy companies and oil producers and natural gas producers, and they started doing everything they could to sort of kill off fossil fuels. In fact, the president, actually, when he campaigned, he promised that he's going to end fossil fuels.
I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I'm not going to cooperate.
That's right, man. He said it. There's no doubt about it. He absolutely is against the idea of using fossil fuels, which is why he's trying to shove these electric cars down our throats that nobody wants and nobody's trying to buy, and trying to make sure that we do more solar and we do more wind. It's interesting, though, although they seem to be in favor of solar energy and wind energy, they're actually in the process right now of putting together proposals to do away with some hydroelectric dams. I mean, if there's ever been, if there's any, green way to produce electricity, it's with hydroelectric dams, but they don't like those either. And now comes the latest blow in the war against our energy company and our energy infrastructure in this country. They have put a hold on exports of liquid petroleum gas. That's LNG, liquid natural gas. I'll read you the story here from townhall.com. President Joe Biden appears to be looking to expand his war on American energy, with his administration's latest move delaying a decision on what would be the largest natural gas export terminal in the United States. From day one, the president has used executive actions to pursue a green energy policy as part of his climate crusade to end fossil fuels, and his latest target is liquefied natural gas, specifically the terminals through which the U.S. produces and exports their product. As with many of his previous climate edicts issued by executive fiat, because his policies wouldn't pass the people's representatives in Congress, that's true, Biden is citing climate change in his latest decision. According to reports based on leaks in the New York Times by anonymous officials, the White House is directing the Energy Department to expand its evaluation of a certain proposal for a 546-acre terminal site in Cameron Parish, Louisiana. The $10 billion project would export up to 20 million tons of LNG per year. Their report notes that it's likely the Biden administration decision won't be made until after the presidential election in November. Well, they did finally come out in the briefing room here today and talk about it today. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre saying exactly what it is that they are proposing, even though she makes a horrendous blunder at the end.
Since day one, President Biden has led the most ambitious climate agenda in history, unlocking clean energy breakthroughs, advancing environmental justice, and rallying the world's leaders to transition away from fossil fuel. And whether it's historic hurricanes, floods, or wildfires, the science is clear. Climate change is the existential threat of our time. So today, the Biden-Harris administration announced a temporary pause on pending decisions on exports of liquefied natural gas to certain countries until the Department of Education can update the underlying assessments.
What department was that? What department is making the final decision?
Countries until the Department of Education can update the underlying assessments.
Well, I think she probably on her sheet said DOE, which is the Department of Energy, and she read it Department of Education. Because as far as I can tell, the Department of Education has nothing to do with the decision that's being made by the Department of Energy. Goodness gracious. But I mean, this is ridiculous. What you're basically saying to an industry is you can't sell your product. It's a legal product. When we have a lot of it and we want to export it, and by the way, just because they shut down this thing doesn't mean that that other countries aren't going to export. It means that the price of natural gas will go up worldwide, and other countries that we don't really want to enrich, Iran, Russia, they'll just be selling a lot more natural gas. That's all it means. Here's some of the reaction. Lawmakers led by Senators Bill Cassidy of Louisiana said the administration's actions will empower Russia and Iran while harming U.S. allies in Europe and Asia. Advocates of LNG exports say the projects are vital to help American allies meet energy demands as nations look to wean off Russian natural gas supplies. Well, that seems like that'd be a good thing, right? Buy American gas and enrich an American company that hires Americans to work at it. And not, do something that's only going to help out Vladimir Putin. American LNG exports have enhanced our geopolitical influence and international security across the board since 2016. The Republicans wrote in a letter to President Biden and Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. In addition to Europe, U.S. LNG has a significant impact on energy security in Asia, Japan, South Korea. These are all our allies. They have been the top 2 destinations for importing liquid natural gas. Limiting U.S. LNG exports does not have any impact on the world's demand for natural gas. Instead, countries including Russia and Iran will simply produce more of it, and it's subject to less stringent environmental regulations than ours is. As a result, limiting American LNG exports in the name of stopping climate change could do just the opposite and add to global emissions. So there you have it. I mean, this, again, another boneheaded decision by the Biden White House to do something, because the greenies, they just up in arms. Some of these things that he seems to be doing seem to be so boneheaded and by the way, not particularly smart from a political standpoint. One wonders why are you doing this? And the answer is, apparently they are just trying to satisfy those on the extreme left of the Democrat Party, those who are in favor of the Green New Deal and all of the environmentalists, because they feel like, they gotta answer to those folks. But it's not politically popular, especially during, I would imagine, during an election year. Maybe it is with a small part of America, but the vast majority of Americans want energy independence, and they don't like this idea, and they don't want to see a war against fossil fuels. So I don't know what they're thinking about over there. It makes me wonder if they're just going to start shoving stuff out, even the unpopular stuff. They just keep shoving it out every day, because at the end of the day, maybe Biden is not going to be the nominee. See what I'm saying? I mean, if behind the scenes that, you don't want to say you're not going to run for re-election, you want to put up the idea and the front that you're running for election, but if you know deep in your heart that ultimately you're not going to be the nominee, why not shove as much of this stuff out as you can before the next president is chosen? I don't know, but it seems to me it's a pretty boneheaded thing. And it goes with everything they do. It seems pretty stupid, like the dishwasher thing. We're going to give you a dishwasher that doesn't clean dishes, just like we have toilets that don't flush and shower heads that don't get you clean. I mean, everything they do, they do it in the name of trying to, protect the environment. But it doesn't really make any sense because, if you have a toilet that doesn't flush, what do? You flush it twice, right? You flush it twice. And if you have a dishwasher that doesn't get dishes clean, what do? You run them twice. Everything they do is sort of stupid when you really look at it as the way people live, and yet they keep shoving this stuff out the door. Well, look, there's no doubt about it that in this coming election, You have one individual who wants to drill baby drill and says that'll be one of the first things he does is make sure that some of the restrictions that have been placed on this this country by the Biden administration will be removed as soon as he hits office. And on the other side, you got a guy who thinks that we need to go out there and all be driving electric cars that nobody can afford and nobody wants, and hands down really stupid things like this that say, we're not going to export liquid petroleum gas because we're not going to do that because, it's bad for the environment. But all it really does is it hurts our allies and enriches Iran and Russia. What is the logic in that? I quite frankly, I can't make any sense out of it at all. But this is what it is to be in the Biden administration. This is what they're going to be doing. And look, they're going to be more. Just watch. The crazy stuff is going to start coming every day like this. 49 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's talk about, the kinds of things that are happening when you have a lot of rain, a lot of ice and snow, talking about waterproofing issues around your house. Maybe even you find that it has exacerbated a foundation issue and you need to get it fixed, right? I mean, why don't you just call the people that I would call? Call the folks at United Structural Systems. USS, man, they come out and they'll take an assessment of what you got going on. They'll give you some guidance about what they think is the best solution for your problem. And then if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. Mark put it this way. He said, so much experience made me feel really comfortable. He knew what the right repair plan would be. He wanted the job to be done right, not just done. Jerry says this is the best crew we have ever had do work on our house. Jeffrey said the service was A+++. And on top of that, the work they did actually solved my problem. Constance, excellent experience, put me at ease in the entire process. Listen, USS, they guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at ussTN.com or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Some breaking news. The verdict is in on the Donald Trump defamation case. We'll tell you the damages there. Some crime here in Tennessee and echoes of the revolution there in France. We'll tell you what that's over. 4 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I'm going to have to scoop you a little bit there and sort of give some of the details because it is breaking news. The jury that has been hearing the defamation trial against Donald Trump brought by E. Jean Carroll has come back with a verdict. It was relatively quick. I mean, this morning they were giving final arguments. Donald Trump at one point during the arguments, final arguments on the part of E. Jean Carroll's team, stood up, walked out of the courtroom, seemingly angered by what he was hearing, and then they went to deliberation. Now, the old saying is when a jury comes back pretty quick, it's generally not good news, and it wasn't in this case either. The jury has ruled that Donald Trump must pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in punitive and compensatory damages. So that just out, and we just saw E. Jean Carroll emerge from the courthouse with her team with all smiles. We've not yet heard from the Trump people about how they view this ruling today, but the number is $83.3 million in damages, compensatory and punitive damages. Now, let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrials up, but just a little, 60 points. S&P down, just barely, 3. NASDAQ is down about 55. Sort of a day where, you have mixed boards, but not a great deal of volatility in the market. So what's going on with all this? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management for more. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, pretty uneventful day in the market, which is a little bit surprising. S&P down just a little bit. It actually ended a pretty long winning streak, but there was some really big news today. The Fed's preferred inflation report, the PCE index report, is what they look at. It's really their favorite report, and that came in at 2.9%, and that is the first time it's been below 3% since March of 2021. And then another encouraging note relative to inflation, the core PCA inflation rate fell to 1.5% over a 3-month annualized basis. So that's really low. So the question is now, when are the rate cuts going to come? But a good report on inflation.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Now, listen, find out what John and all the other great folks over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you plan for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, yesterday I told you I'm beginning my journey to lose weight with the help from the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon. And you may have heard me say in recent days that I did lose a lot of weight. That was last year, but guess what? I got to feeling better after a couple of bouts of the medical issues, and it came roaring back. Now, I have never taken on a weight loss client before, but I really like the way Carly and Jamie and the folks at Restoration Wellness Med Spa approach this. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They took the time to really look at my history, talk to me about my lifestyle, and then customize a plan that best fits my needs. It's a customized treatment plan. So I began yesterday, and I'll be sharing with you how it's going in the days ahead. Why don't you do what I did? Set up an appointment to develop your customized treatment plan at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and be a part of the more than 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results. Whether your own goal is to lose stubborn body fat or to improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Take advantage of the newest technology in weight loss management. Here's the number. Write it down, 615-470-8124. Now, again, here's the website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
4 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 60 degrees in Nashville. Showers expected through Sunday. Got a flood advisory near Hickman County, near the Duck River, Centerville area. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in about 5 minutes. Some breaking news. The verdict is in on the Donald Trump defamation case. The former president has been ordered to pay $83.3 million in damages to E. Jean Carroll. A jury found Trump liable last year for sexually abusing Carroll in a New York department store in the 1990s and defaming her after she wrote about the incident. Trump stormed out of the closing arguments today, left the courtroom while an attorney representing E. Jean Carroll was speaking. He returned to hear his own attorney speak. And the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees has fired several staffers in Gaza who stand accused of taking part in the October 7th terror attacks Hamas carried out on Israel. Shannon Crawford has the United States response from the State Department.
The State Department is freezing financial support for the UN agency that provides critical assistance to Palestinians in Gaza after Israel made serious allegations that a dozen aid workers took part in the October 7th terror attack. U.S. officials promising that the funding will only start again once the accusations have been thoroughly investigated and any UN employee found guilty is held accountable.
Crime in Tennessee. A 91-year-old woman was robbed at a Truist Bank off of Whites Creek Pike. She tried to run away. She was pushed down, and they took her money. 2 suspects are at large, while 32-year-old DeAndre Robertson was arrested in the crime. And 2 hours before this, a similar crime was reported at a Truist Bank in Brentwood. Robinson was also seen at that crime scene as well. Echoes of the revolution in France over food prices. Anastasia Catera has more from Paris.
Farmers from across France closing in on the capital, using their tractors to block some of France's major highways, specifically in and around Paris, demanding better pay for their produce and less bureaucracy. Farmers' unions hope the move will pressure the government into doing more to help them. The French government has said it would announce new measures to help ease the crisis on Friday.
And in Tennessee, multiple crews will be patching potholes over the coming days and weeks. Cold mix asphalt is currently being used for repairs. More permanent repairs will be made in spring and early summer when asphalt plants are producing hot mix. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair, hour number 2 of The Drive. We're so glad that you're with us on this Friday, January 26th. And as you move about the area and you start to head home for an evening with the family or whatever, we're going to give you news and information you can use. And there's a lot of stuff going on. Let me just give you a quick update. The border standoff is continuing. And right now what you have, the federal government now has, the Supreme Court permission to go cut that razor wire. And they've sent exactly, it appears to me, according to the pictures I'm seeing, 6 people to try to do that. And they're trying to cut this stuff. And I think they're getting cut more than the wire is. And it almost looks like, it almost looks like you've got a whole situation there where it's sort of like the Keystone Cops. They're struggling with this stuff. But, I mean, it is a serious story with the border standoff. And we'll have a chance to ask Senator Marsha Blackburn about what's going on down there coming up at 5:05. And there was a verdict in the defamation trial against Donald Trump brought by E. Jean Carroll. Punitive and compensatory damages, $83.3 million. And so those are the things that are the big breaking stories. Let's do this. Let's start talking about the election, the oncoming election, 2024. Oh, let's not do that. Let's do this instead. Here we go. Wow, it just doesn't want to work for me. There it is. I don't know what that was.
You gotta push the right button.
Okay, well,
not the wrong one.
There's too many buttons. That's the problem. 2024 update, and here we go. The numbers. Let's start with the numbers. Well, first thing I think I can tell you is that Nikki Haley is just getting stomped like a little mud hole. I'm telling you. Trump, for the GOP nomination, it is now, according to the Morning Consult, Trump 81, Haley 18. That would mean that Trump has to get the GOP nomination, Trump has a 63-point lead nationwide. Now, that's not specifically the next big battle is in South Carolina. We don't have those numbers yet. But if you look at the national effort, there's just no way you overcome a 63-point deficit. Now, there's a more favorable poll, I guess, in the Reuters Ipsos. You ready? Trump 64, Haley 19. And I don't know how that adds up. Where are the other numbers? I guess people who dropped out. That has Trump with a 45-point lead. So, Nikki Haley is not going to become the Republican, nominee. And so, we're all looking at this, we're going, how in the world can you possibly, hope to stay in the race and have any success? And the only, I cannot see a pathway at all for Nikki Haley to be the GOP nominee. It just doesn't seem possible. Now, if you ask me, is there a pathway for her to stay in the race? And I say, yes, there is, but not as a Republican. And so, that's one of the things I think as we get deeper and deeper into this election season, the question is going to be, does Nikki Haley move over and run as an independent? And if that's the case, then, you know what? She might be able to pull a pretty good number out of people who don't like Biden and people who don't like Trump and independents who are looking. We hear a lot of people say they don't like either of their choices. So who knows how that might play out. But so far, when you add the numbers of third-party candidates like Robert F. Kennedy and the others, minor candidates that are in the race, it seems to help Trump and not Biden. There is a general election poll that came out today, Reuters Ipsos again, and this is looking really, really good for Donald Trump. Trump 40, Biden 34. Trump leads by 6 in that poll. The thing about it is that sort of mirrors a couple of polls that we talked to you about yesterday, where it was 4 or 5 or 6. So there are polls out there where Trump is, starting to gain. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average of polls has it at Trump plus 3.8, basically 4. But there's been a series of polls that have come out in recent days that are very favorable for the former president and not very favorable for the current president. So there are those numbers that we like to crunch the numbers for you so you know where things go. Here's another number, but not good news for the current president of the United States. Biden's third-year job approval average of 39.8, that's his approval rating, only 39.8%, is the second worst known to the Gallup poll since they've been taking that number. So here we go. During President Joe Biden's third full year in office, spanning January 20th to January 19th, 2024, an average of 39.8 of Americans approved of his job performance. Among prior presidents in the Gallup polling area who were elected to their first term, only Jimmy Carter fared worse in his third year. Carter's was at 37.4% approval in a year in which gas prices soared, inflation reached double digits, and Iranian militants took U.S. hostages, citizens hostage. Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon had sub 50% third-year averages. Dwight Eisenhower's 72.1 is the highest for third-year president. But Biden's third-year average was lower than both his first year and his second year. And there you go. Gallup's latest job approval rating for Biden is 41%, so it's come up a little bit but not much. So there you go. Joe Biden, his numbers are horrible. I mean, you look at, job approval is one of those big, big numbers. Man, I'm telling you, if I'm a Democrat right now, I'm beginning to freak out. I'm looking at this I'm going, man, how in the world are you going to pull off a victory right now? And I just don't see a pathway for him to become president again if these numbers hold. It's again, you have to have an honest election. But if you look at Trump's numbers in the battleground states, he's doing well. There are some states that Biden is going to win because, they're just blue states. And there's some states that Trump is going to win because they're red states. But then there are these purplish states, and that's where where really elections are won or lost is in those battleground states. And, I mean, most of the battleground states look pretty good for Donald Trump. And again, when you have an approval rating at 39.8, which is the second lowest, and the only person who ever did worse was Jimmy Carter in his second, as he was running for re-election on the second term. I don't see how in the world it's going to turn out well for Joe Biden, but again, we're still a long way from the elections. Not trying to pump sunshine. I'm beginning to wonder, how long Democrats are going to stand by and allow this to happen. At some point, and we had some reporting on this yesterday, you have these reports that Obama is, trying to, work behind the scenes, and maybe there's a push. And maybe it's all been planned out, and it's going to happen at the convention. I don't know, but it doesn't seem as if this guy's on a right track, and Donald Trump is looking pretty good. This is interesting, and again, take it from the source. But I think he's politically on target. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo warned Democrats on Thursday that the party could lose the general election in November if it does not unite on key issues, and the one he mentions first and foremost is the border crisis. I mean, what do we find out in Iowa? The voters, when they left the polls, said the number one issue that concerned them was immigration, was what was going on down at the border. And the number one issue on the minds of people as they left New Hampshire voting places was the situation on the border, immigration. Usually it's the economy or your pocketbook, but I mean, everybody who exited the polling places in both Iowa and New Hampshire said the same thing. Large numbers said the number one thing was this whole situation on the border. Cuomo, a Democrat, former ally of President Joe Biden, claimed Democrats must lead in order to win and must unite around a better response to the border crisis. Look, I mean, you have enough Democrats who start talking about this. You got to wonder when they're going to make a change. Cuomo said Governor Greg Abbott's ploy to bus migrants to sanctuary cities showed how ill-prepared the party was for the consequences of the Biden administration's border policies and its failure to find a solution. The former governor urged Democrats in the federal government in states like New Jersey and the state of New York to unite on the issue instead of relying on cities like New York to handle the influx. One way or the other, Cuomo, disgraced individual that he is in the world of politics, he's right on this. Democrats are going to lose because of largely of the border thing. And what astonishes me is that they look at this situation and, they had the opportunity to fix it and to say, well, you know what, we did finally shut down the border. They could do that in one phone call, really, honestly. Most of this stuff could be fixed in one day by the rescinding of some executive orders and a phone call down there to the Border Patrol to say, go ahead and enforce the law the way you're supposed to enforce the law. Take the handcuffs off the Border Patrol and ICE. They could do it so quickly, but they continue to go down the road to ruin. And everybody, well, I'm astonished that they haven't figured this out yet. But one way or the other, I mean, it makes, again, it sort of starts to feed into my developing theory that they're going to do everything they can and do as much damage as they possibly can, implement as much of their Green New Deal and their liberal politics and their liberal policies, and try to get as many people across the border as they can with hopes that one day there will be a pathway to citizenship for them and they can vote. They may vote anyway. And so, I think they're going to do everything because they know he's not going to be the nominee. Behind the scenes, I wonder if they actually have sort of this giant plan that he's not going to be the nominee. So let's get as much of this ugly stuff out of the way because we're gonna do the big switcheroo at the convention, and he won't actually be the nominee. And you can't blame the stuff that Biden did on the new nominee. So you get a fresh start. I mean, I'm really beginning to wonder if that's not their strategy. I hate to, sound conspiratorial here, but it really does not make any sense that they continue to go down the road to ruin on things that they know are not sitting well with the American people. Why are they doing it? One reason might be because Biden's going to get as much of the ugly stuff done and then jump out of it and let somebody else take over. I don't know. It's what it seems like to me. 20 minutes now past the hour. 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me talk to you about the folks over at Eurofix. There are a lot of diagnoses out there and a pill for everything, but not all diagnoses are accurate and not all pills are actually good for you. When you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, you might want to get a second opinion before you make any major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. Don't spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair with some diagnosis you got someplace else without checking with Eurofix. It could save your vehicle's life. It might actually save you a lot of money. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you'll get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. The locations? Well, Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and their newest facility in Mount Juliet right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com and tell them that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
A verdict reached in the Donald Trump defamation case, plus the latest money news. 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 24 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock, Super Talk, on this Friday, January 26th. I just want to remind you that we are just a few minutes away from one of my favorite things that we do every week. It's a fan favorite. It's Phone Your Farb Friday. And, you get to get on our 100,000 watt soapbox and express yourself. Say whatever's on your mind. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet thing, or maybe you just want to take umbrage with something you've heard, or maybe you think there's a story out there that we're missing. Whatever it is, you'll be able to climb up on our soapbox and express yourself. It's the one time of the week where we just sort of let it all hang out.
Give you the floor.
That's right. Yeah. Within boundaries, because it is a family show, and
keep it clean. Yeah.
We do have a little red button. We don't like to use it, and we don't want to put anybody on super secret probation. We have done that on rare occasion.
That's true.
But that's not our goal. We really want to hear what's on your mind. So get your thoughts together. That'll be coming up at 4:35. In Memphis today, there was a big press conference featuring, the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, local officials there in Memphis, and Jack Johnson, the majority leader of the Senate, and they're actually pitching something that you'll be hearing a lot more about, I think, as time goes forward, a constitutional amendment that would make it easier to allow judges to deny bail for violent criminals. Apparently, the problem is that judges are limited by what they can do by the Tennessee Constitution, and Cameron Sexton and others believe it's time to amend that Constitution to get something that will allow judges, when you have a violent offender, to deny bail. Here's a little bit of what Cameron Sexton had to say in Memphis today.
All of us are asking to do is have a constitutional amendment that will be on our ballot here in a few years. That gives the judicial more discretion on bail. Right now in the state constitution, we're limited based off the Constitution saying that you can only deny bail, judges can use their discretion only to deny bail for capital offenses. So you have a lot of time, and there's a lot of cases all across our state that you see, not just in Memphis, but all across the state, of someone who is out on bail, who is a violent criminal, who committed another violent crime shortly thereafter that took another victim. And we don't have the tools to give, due to that limiting constitutional aspect, the judges and the DAs the capability of denying bail on those violent criminals. And so what this is merely a constitutional amendment that we hope to propose this year that will be on the ballot at the next statewide race that would allow the judicial branch to have more discretion in denying bail. I think the important aspect of it too is in the language we want to also insert that when they do deny or accept bail, that they have to tell us why they did or did not, which gives you transparency of understanding why that decision was made, and hopefully comfort that it's not being abused when we had that level of transparency. So we're hopeful that we're going to move this forward. I appreciate all the members of the General Assembly who are here, Republicans and Democrats, who support Memphis, who support Tennessee, who support working in a bipartisan fashion to make sure that we keep our communities safe.
Why Memphis? I wonder why they decided to go to Memphis. Well, Memphis has had a tremendous crime problem. I mean, I was just, while I was looking for sound from this, I went to the couple of the websites, the local Memphis TV news operations, and boy, you think, things are rough here in Nashville at times. Whew. I mean, the amount of crime that was being reported on the pages of these different websites was sort of eye-opening. But I mean, they have a real problem down there, and part of the problem is that these people they get arrested, the police do their job, and they're in and out in a matter of moments. They get bail, and sometimes they don't even have to pay a lot of money to get that bail. And sometimes these are violent crimes. Well, if there's a problem with the Constitution that says only capital offenses, then maybe we need to make an adjustment here. Seems like, at least on first reading, I like this. They're going to be, a lot of the criminal lawyers who carry a lot of weight. They do have a lot of weight. We'll try to work against this, but it's interesting that's happening. The other reason I think it's interesting is Cameron Sexton. I'm just going to say it. I think he's trying to raise his profile. I think he would like to be considered as potential candidate for the governor when the current governor's term is up. He's term limited, can't run again. So, is Cameron Sexton starting to, make sure that he is seen not only in Nashville and in other places, here in this area, but he's also seen in some of the other markets around the state. So I think there are two things going on there. But I do like this idea of a constitutional amendment that would allow judges to deny bail for violent criminals beyond just criminal, homicide cases, etc. So we'll watch that. Again, it's a slow process. We're probably a couple of years out before voters could vote on it, but I think Tennesseans will pass that, the way it sounds, at least initially. 30 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 58 degrees and expecting a rainy weekend ahead. Got a forecast and a traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. A decision in the trial against former President Donald Trump. A jury went well beyond what columnist E. Jean Carroll asked for in her defamation case. They've awarded an additional $83.3 million. Aaron Katursky is outside the courthouse and explains what might have led them to this amount.
Earlier in the day, Carroll's attorneys had asked the jury to think about how much money it would take to make Donald Trump stop defaming E. Jean Carroll, because they said his defamatory statements continued well beyond June 2019. They counted well over 100 times, they said, when Trump, during the trial, said defamatory and disparaging things about her. And so this is what the jury took to be just punishment.
And Alina Habba, Donald Trump's attorney, said that they were seeing a corrupt justice system and that Donald Trump was not allowed to introduce different defenses. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street today.
Stocks closed mixed to end the week. The Dow rose 60 points while the Nasdaq gave up 55, and the S&P finally slowed its roll after days of record closes, falling 3 points. The Fed's preferred gauge of inflation shows it continued to cool from November to December, even as the economy kept growing briskly. Prices rose just 0.2% and less than 3% from a year ago, a pace consistent with pre-pandemic levels and barely above the central bank's 2% annual target. The latest data suggests that the economy may reach that elusive soft landing and avoid a recession. The White House is delaying consideration of new natural gas export terminals in the U.S., even as gas shipments to Europe and Asia soared since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The president's election year decision aligns with those of environmentalists who are pushing for more renewable energy.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Now, gold, it's been used as money for forever, and for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, and it's consistent across generations. Some have observed that the way you build generational wealth is you do three things. You buy land, you buy art, and you purchase precious metals. Land, I mean, who can afford that right now? And art, I don't know a lot about art, but I mean, precious metals, we can all figure that one. We wrap our heads around that. We can touch it. We can feel it. It's tangible. You can hold it in your hand. You can put it in your safe. You know it's there, and it will always have value. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. And gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have gold that was given to you, or maybe you inherited it, or maybe you would just want to learn more about precious metals. Well, the place to turn is Nashville Gold and Coin. They're always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metal market. So do what I did and go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin, and you can set up your one-on-one appointment. Yes, that's how they do it. One-on-one appointment, NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. We'll call it 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It is that time that we do this thing that we do every Friday, a little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday. Here's the number. You know it, 615-737-9986. That's 737-WWTN. Listen, maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in someplace, which I really hope you never, ever have a bug. Hey. Just get on the phone, step up on our 100,000-watt soapbox, and express yourself within boundaries, because it is a family show. We want you to be smart. We want you to be sassy. We want you to get it right off your chest and just tell us what's on your mind. Again, a lot of phone lines open, 615-737-9986. Let's fill up that call board, and let's start with Ken in Dyersburg. Ken, you're on with Brian on the drive. Ken, what's on your mind today?
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I've got a question. Are the Border Patrol, now I drive a truck, and I go down to, I've been to Eagle Pass, Del Rio, and Laredo a lot over the last several years.
Yeah.
Are those guys down there, are the Border Patrol, because I got to come back through that checkpoint every time, and usually they're just like, are you an American citizen? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, last time I went down there here a couple of weeks ago, they just waved me on through. They didn't even ask me if I was an American citizen. My question is, are those guys enlisted like military, or are they just employed?
No, they're government employees. They work for the administration and for the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, my thing is, if they were true patriots, why don't they stand down and walk off their job?
Well,
all of them. I mean, from
you
their
know what?
down.
I understand that a lot of people who work in the Border Patrol and ICE have given up their careers there because they just can't stand what's happening. And, you know, look, you are an employee, and then your employer is the President of the United States who sets policy. And, you know, you have a choice. You can just do what you're asked to do. But see, I think a lot of them go through, you know, what they're doing sort of half-heartedly. And like, for example, I don't expect that there's going to be, you know, a big standoff between the Border Patrol and the Texas Department of Public Safety down there, because I think that they sort of feel like the Department of Public Safety is right. So they do what they have to do to sort of, I think sometimes, you know, show that they're following the orders that they have. Like right now, I just saw pictures, Eagle Pass, and there's some guys, about 6 guys trying to take down barbed wire. And I mean, it's you know, there's no huge effort. Let's put it that way. Are they cutting the barbed wire? Yeah. Are they cutting a lot of barbed wire? No. Are they having a real impact? No, because I mean, the state of Texas can put it right back up. And so I think they're going through the motions, I think, you know, to some extent. But no, they are federal employees, and they have a choice. They can follow orders, or they can quit. All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Ricky in Watertown. You're up next on the drive. What's up, Ricky?
Hello, Mr. Wilson.
Hey.
Fellow Watertonian, I guess that'd be the right way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you not played the dumbest thing I ever heard Mr. Biden say that he said yesterday at the beer brewery in Minnesota?
Chris,
Bill had to law
back me up on this. Back me up on this. I did play it.
Oh.
Yep, he did play it a couple of times.
I didn't hear. I apologize.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to listen to every minute of the show. You can't miss a minute of it. You're talking about this.
Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why it's coming.
I didn't get even 1/3 of that.
I've heard him say a lot of dumb stuff that took the top notch.
All right. Thank you, Ricky. Appreciate it. No, you got to listen to every minute. Every minute. You know, like people often say, well, why didn't you do this? I say, well, you know what? I did do that twice. Some people will complain, well, you did that story twice. And I go, well, you know, I'm trying to make sure everybody hears the big stories of the day. But, you know, no, if you know, don't accuse me of not doing something if you didn't listen to the entire show. All right. All fairness. How about, well, this will be interesting. Robert in Nashville. What's on your mind, Robert?
Well, I heard you talking yesterday about them cameras they put up in Watertown, and everybody's flipping out about them, wondering what the heck they are and whatnot. And I thought maybe I could shine a little light on there and explain what they are and how they work.
Well, I have explained that they are surveillance camera, and there was a $70,000 grant that was given to purchase these surveillance cameras, but they're not just speed cameras. We've said that.
No. So basically what it is whenever, let's say 2 people call 911, and one of them calls up and says, hey, there's somebody breaking into cars over here. And another one calls up and says, hey, there's a guy shooting the place up over here. Well, they only have so many police officers to go around, so obviously they're going to go to the guy shooting the place up. Well, you can't just say, well, because we were dealing with this over here, I'm sorry about your cars, there's nothing we can do about it. There's just so much crime going on everywhere that they don't have enough police officers to deal with it. So what they do is in these higher crime areas where you have like a lot of car break-ins or things like that, they put these cameras up. So later on, they can go back and see all them calls that they got about car breaking in.
Listen, Robert, listen, but by the way, Robert, what do you do?
I'm a mechanic in Nashville, but if you go to Nashville, they're everywhere. They're at the Kroger on 8th Avenue. They're on Nowheresville Road.
Robert, I get that. All I was saying is, and this is the only thing that I said about it was, they put them up, and nobody knew they were going up. In a town the size of Watertown, believe me, when something like that happens, it catches everybody's attention, and everybody want to know, what the heck are they? Are they speed cameras? Well, we explained what they were. They're surveillance cameras. But that doesn't mean that people aren't sort of up in arms about it. They are. And they're asking a lot of questions. And the thing that I raised about it was, apparently I'm told very reliably that the council members didn't know anything about it. So if you're going to have a policy change, it seems to me it's up to you to sort of inform the community about what it is. And certainly you should loop in your town council members. That's all I've said. Thank you, Robert, for the call. Appreciate it. Jeff out on the road. You're up next on the drive. What do you say, Jeff?
Hey, Brian, good evening. I was listening last week when you were elaborating on Iowa and how cold it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard some guys on the CB last week. They was talking about how cold it was in Chicago. And the guy said, well, how cold was it? He said, well, it was so cold, I saw a lawyer with his hands in his own pockets.
All right.
That's pretty cold.
That's pretty cold. That's okay.
That's
Jeff,
cold.
that's
Enjoy
a
your
good
show.
That's a good joke. I'm sorry. It's not Happy Organ worthy.
Wow.
I know. Well, do you think it was? You think it was?
Well, I got to say, in all honesty, Jeff, I've heard that one before, or
okay.
a variation on that joke.
All
so,
right.
yeah, it's right on the fence.
All right. We got some open phone lines, 615-737-9986. Scott in Murfreesboro, you're up next on the drive. What's up with you, Scott? What's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, Brian. I just want to know if you've heard anything about, first of all, I'm pro-Israel. I want to state that. But I've also been reading that Israel is trying to take the Gaza Strip so they can circumvent the Suez Canal and put a canal where the Gaza Strip is for commerce that they say will do $6 billion a year. Just wanted to know if you've heard anything about that.
No, I haven't, and it seems sort of I'm very dubious, let's put it that way. Very dubious about that. That doesn't sound right. I mean, look, Israel is reacting to what happened on October 7th, and they have every right to do that, in my estimation. So, you hear all kinds of wild stuff going on right now, mainly by these yahoos who are all protesting, the Biden administration. There's a lot of reasons to protest the Biden administration. But in my estimation, support of Israel is not one of them. Okay? All right. Fair enough. Thanks you for the call, though. Let's go to Jerry up in Nashville. Jerry, you're up next on the drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. How are you?
I'm well. What's up?
I was just going to bring a little humor to the conversation today. If Trump would sell pay-per-view tickets to when he fires everybody, I think he could recoup that money he lost today.
He lost $83.3 million. I mean, I haven't heard if there's going to be an appeal to that. If you just joined us, the jury in the defamation trial in New York came back and said that Trump owed E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in punitive and compensatory damages. All right, thank you for the call. Adrian and Dixon, you're up next on the drive. What's up, Adrian?
Hello. I'm trying to figure out why you guys can't have different times for the news based on different, like I listen to 1510 and I listen to you guys and y'all have the news at the same time. And then you have the commercials at the same time. So I have to
hold it, Adrian. So what you're suggesting to me is that we should adjust our schedule to what other broadcasters are doing?
Yeah, you'd have your news listened to all the time.
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. First of all, that other station you mentioned,
yeah.
if they want to adjust they're the one who needs to adjust because we're the king of this hill. I'll tell you that for sure. Look, I mean, here's the thing. I want you to listen to our show. So we're going to do the best show that we can do. We're going to program it the way we think is best, and then you get to make a choice. So, if you want to go over there and be the minuscule, listeners, some of their minuscule numbers of listeners, that's your business. But, we all know that there's only one real talk station in this market, and it's Super Talk 99.7.
I got you, but you both could play too many ED commercials for the women on the show.
I don't know what you want us to do. You know, people have a right to buy advertising. I mean, look, do I get tired of some of the ads? Yeah, I mean, everybody does. But I mean, that's why when I watch Fox News, I get tired of their ads sometimes. When I watch this, that, and the other, and whatever it is, I get tired of the ads as well. But this is advertising. That's the way the game is played. Here's the thing. For the commentary and what I bring to you, you need to remember this. It's free to you. And it doesn't cost you a penny to listen to me on the radio. Now, there's a reason for that, and that's because we do advertising. And, you know, everybody gets tired of advertising, but advertising pays the bills. And I, for one, am glad that there are people out there who are supporting this station so we can do what we do. And therefore, you know, that's why we do advertising. But the bottom line is, you know, we're gonna program this station the way we see best. And if anybody, you know, has a problem, you know, and other people, if they want to make adjustments, that'd be just fine. But it's we don't think about them. We think about you. And we think about how to best provide information to you. All right. I'm going to get one more in. Mike in Cookville. What's up with that, Mike? What's up with you today?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, look, have you had the Centra on this afternoon yet?
No, she's going to be on in a few minutes.
Okay. Well, I'd like to ask you a question. What are we doing about Biden giving free education loans to people, even though that the
Supreme Court,
Supreme Court has outruled that? I had to pay for my education loans, had to pay for my wife's education loans, and I don't want to pay for nobody else's education loans.
I certainly agree with you on that. Well, let's see if I can squeeze it in. I got a lot of things I need to get on there, but I'll try. I'll try to get that worked in, Mike. Thanks for the call. It is, by the way, he's talking about Marsha Blackburn, going to be on in just a few moments to talk about, among other things, the border situation and TikTok. She doesn't want TikTok to come to Nashville. We'll talk about that and other things coming up in just a bit. Thank you for a good round of calls. It is 51 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. How you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, you have nothing to lose except for all the worry. So get started today by calling this number, 615-488-9303. And at the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
5 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 60 degrees in Nashville. Tracking showers this weekend. Expected rainfall through Sunday afternoon. Traffic weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The verdict is in for the Donald Trump defamation case. The former president has been ordered to pay $83.3 million in damages to E. Jean Carroll. His attorney, Alina Habba, spoke to the media after the verdict.
I have sat on trial after trial for months in this state, the state of New York. Attorney General Letitia James, and now this. Weeks. Why? Because President Trump is leading in the polls, and now we see what you get in New York. So don't get it twisted, whoever asked me that question. I am so proud to stand with President Trump, but I am not proud to stand with what I saw in that courtroom.
She said we're seeing the corruption of our justice system and that Trump was not allowed to introduce different defenses. Possible legislation in Tennessee. A new bill proposed would require the Tennessee Department of Health to report the number of people in the state who have died from accidental fentanyl poisoning over the past decade. They'd report it to the legislative committees. And just this past month, country singer Jelly Roll pleaded with Congress to take action to stop the fentanyl crisis. In a renewed debate over capital punishment, with the EU and UN condemning the first execution of a man with nitrogen gas in Alabama, Enes de la Catera.
The European Union and UN Rights Office saying the execution of convicted murderer Kenneth Eugene Smith with nitrogen gas in Alabama violates the right to life and does not deter crime. A spokesperson for the UN saying Smith clearly appeared to suffer during the execution, adding, quote, rather than looking for novel, untested methods to execute people, let's just bring an end to the death penalty, end quote.
Crime in Tennessee. News 2 says that 34-year-old Robert Collins is facing rape charges after being accused of attacking a woman he had briefly dated. The 35-year-old victim claims that she woke up to Collins strangling her and then was sexually assaulted. There was bruising on the victim's throat. Collins is now being held in the Metro Jail on a $210,000 bond. And weeks after a private company's failed attempt to put a spacecraft on the moon, NASA now celebrating the unqualified success of another project millions of miles away from the lunar surface. Jim Ryan.
It was July 2020.
And liftoff.
The little helicopter called Ingenuity was launched into space along with the Perseverance rover. 6 months later, video of Ingenuity flying around the Martian surface. 3.5 years in.
What started as a technology demonstration with plans for only up to 5 flights has now completed a remarkable 72 flights on Mars.
NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says Ingenuity broke a rotor and has now finally flown its last mission.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive, Friday, January 26th, hour number 3. And we want to get right to our Newsmaker hotline because standing by is the senior senator from the state of Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Senator Blackburn, good to have you on the show as always. I know that there are two things that you want to talk about, and I promise you we will get to them. But I just have to ask you your question about this developing standoff that seems to be now about to take place between the state of Texas and federal officials. And I understand 25 Republican governors have sided with Governor Abbott down there. This border situation thing is getting tenser and tenser. And how does this thing eventually get resolved in your mind?
And, Brian, it is the number one issue with people. I did a telephone town hall this week, and we had about 4 Middle Tennessee counties in this town hall. We had hundreds, thousands of people that were on the line and just more questions than we could get to. But the majority of the questions had to do with the border. And it doesn't matter what someone's political leaning is. What they're doing is looking at this and saying, this is out of control. You've got to do something that is going to secure the border so we know who is coming in the country. And, of course, the Supreme Court is going to weigh in again on this. You have had one lawsuit that came up, and they sided with the administration. It basically was an Article 4, Section 4 approach of protection from invasion. And then the Article 1, Section 10 account, which deals with the right of the state to protect themselves when the federal government does not do their job. The court will hear that. You'll see that move forward. I think you will see the court side with Texas. Texas has the right to protect their border. They have the right to protect the private property of those ranchers and farmers that work there on the border, of the homeowners and property owners that live there on the border. People have lost the use of their property because of what is happening there. Right. And Brian, I think the reason that public opinion is going to force the issue of securing that border is because every city, every town's a border town, every state a border
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, though. There have been negotiations between the administration and a few senators in the United States Senate about a border deal. And now, the House of Representatives says, we're not going to give you any money for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan. We could hang up your budget and not let that go forward unless you do something about the border. Negotiations were going on between the administration and some Republican senators, but it was like, what was in the deal? Because now we hear there is no deal. And the Speaker of the House says even if a deal had arrived, based on what I've heard about that deal, it would have been a non-starter in the House of Representatives. What's going on with that?
We think it may be falling apart. And here is what they were wanting to do, is to cap the number of people that could come to the border and be processed on a given day. And this is coming to the border between the ports of entry, which is illegal. You can't do that. And as I told them, I will not vote for anything that is going to make illegal immigration legal.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. And that's what they were trying to do. They also were saying, well, the U.S. could close our border between the ports of entry and at the ports of entry for 275 days a year. I said, look, we have the authority as a sovereign nation to close our border every day of the year. If we want to close our border, if we fear who or what is coming into our country, we can close it any day. The thing we have to realize is this administration has worked overtime to make illegal legal, and this border issue is playing out precisely as they had wanted it to play out because they want to push illegal immigrants into this country and then put them into these sanctuary cities. The sanctuary cities are saying, give us more money. Notice they're not saying close the border and stop this. They are saying we need more money to deal with this influx.
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
why are they doing that? It is because you're going to have the census coming up in 2030, and next year you're going to have that mid-decade check. Now, the number, when we do that census in 2030, Brian, that affects the number of members of the House because we go through reapportionment. When we do this also, it affects the amount of federal dollars that come into your community. And these big blue cities want to count illegal immigrants because they are losing population at a record pace.
I promise I want to get one more question is about the border, if I could, and that is ultimately, do you think that there's going to be a showdown between the federal government and the state down there over this concertina wire? I mean, do you think it'll come to the National Guard or federal troops going down there to face the Texas National Guard? I mean, do you think that's possible?
I don't think that will happen. I think that if they told the Border Patrol to go take on the Texas National Guard, you might have Border Patrol line up with the Texas National Guard.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I want to talk about some other things that I know are on your mind. You are very adamant that you don't want TikTok to come to Nashville. I mean, it's an unusual thing, I admit, and I understand where you're coming from. But usually politicians are all about, hey, look, we got a new business coming to Nashville. You don't want TikTok. Tell everybody why.
Oh, Brian, TikTok, as we have learned, is basically a spyware application. They are building a virtual you of everybody that is on their app. The majority of their users are young people. TikTok in the U.S. is very different from TikTok China, where it is an educational app. And what we know is that TikTok collects your data. They follow your keystrokes. They know what other apps that you use, and then they take that data and it ends up in China. And this is dangerous for our people. This is the reason that you have had TikTok be removed. It is mandatory. You cannot put it on a federal government or a U.S. military device because of the spyware that is built into the system.
All right. And also, you have a meeting coming up with tech giants where you're going to be talking about the influence of some of these social media sites on young people.
We do. We are going to have Meta and Snap and Instagram and X all in front of us, the CEOs in front of us next week. We're continuing, Senator Blumenthal and I, and half of the Senate are co-sponsors of the bill that Senator Blumenthal and I have, which is the Kids Online Safety Act. And we do have a hearing on Wednesday. And your listeners can find me on social media. They can go to our website, blackburn.senate.gov, and they can follow this hearing. It is going to be a big hearing. We are trying to get the Kids Online Safety Act across the finish line. And, of course, the big tech giants, with all of their armies of lawyers and lobbyists, have fought us every step of the way on this. But we have worked on this for about the past 3 years and are getting close to getting it across the finish line.
All right. With the moments that we have left, politics of the moment, New Hampshire is over. Iowa is over. It looks like it's going to be Trump. What's Haley's end game? Why is she staying in?
You know, I've known her for years. She has served her country and her state well, and there is not a path to victory for her. I think she would be well served to pack it in to help unify the party behind President Trump and put her eyes on 2028 and being the nominee at that point.
Do you think that she has any ideas about running as an independent?
I don't. I think she is a Republican. She's a conservative. She is, I just think she would be well served to endorse President Trump and to help unify the party. We have a country to save. We need to make certain that Joe Biden and the Democrats do not control the White House. Everyone is so concerned about the border. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about some of the policies this administration has put in place. And we need to do our best. I'm going to be doing all that I can to help elect President Trump.
Well, the reason I ask is that you look at these GOP nomination numbers that are out there, and Trump in one poll today that came out leads Haley by 63 points. Another one, he leads by 45 points. I can't imagine how anybody could look at that and think that they have a pathway to get the GOP nomination. And then the other thing is it just like with DeSantis? You sort of have to have a few days to process it before you can make a decision like that?
And I have not talked to her, so I don't know what her thought process is on it. But I look at those polls just as you do. Donald Trump is going to be our nominee. And as our nominee, we need to make certain that he wins the White House. We know that he will take care of the border. We know that he will be sure our adversaries understand they're an adversary and our allies understand that they are an ally. And this is the kind of leadership people are wanting to see. And I've looked at some of the polling, and it's so interesting to me, Brian, that it is independents and it is women that are coming back to Donald Trump. And the reason is his job performance as president, the policies that he put in place. And inflation was lower, the economy was better, the world was safer, and those are things that people are wanting to see.
And just your judgment. Do you think that Joe Biden will be the Democrat nominee?
Joe Biden is doing everything he possibly can to stay as the Democrat nominee. So is his wife. So is his son. And I think the intention is for him to be that nominee. There's all this speculation around that they will get to the convention, which, our convention goes first, and then their convention comes after ours. And people feel like that they'll get to that, and then they will replace Biden with Gavin Newsom.
And do you think that is a possibility?
Anything is a possibility, and the way Joe Biden became president, nobody thought he would ever be president, and then you have a guy who can't go out and campaign, who's in the basement, and all of a sudden he wins,
Right.
So you have to prepare for everything and not take anything for granted.
All right. Well, listen, Senator, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for calling in.
You got it.
It's now 21 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
Explicit AI images released of a current pop superstar and a 91-year-old woman robbed. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, McMaury. Time for, you to take off your news hat, put on your sports hat.
To bring you the constant variety of sport. The thrill of victory.
Bum, 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 bum.
And the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for McMaury's wide, wild world of sports. Here he is. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. The incomparable McMaury, ladies and gentlemen.
It's Friday edition.
The crowd goes wild. The crowd goes wild. All right, so big football playoff games this weekend. I assume because something's happening. I'm not getting the daily memos, but I can only assume that's what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yes, that is it. It is the conference championship rounds. We got the Final Four. So 2 games this Sunday. You're going to have first the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, or in this instance, the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. And then you've got the Detroit Lions traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers.
Ravens-Lions, that's it.
Ravens-Lions, that's it? Wow, okay. He's got his picks in. All right.
Weber, I'm
going to have to hear your picks before this segment's over as well. Then, if we're all giving our picks. Then
all right, but give me your analysis. I'm just kidding around.
Oh no, I love it. Well, I was going to start with the Lions and Niners because I think the Lions are kind of the America's story right now. Everyone's really rooting for Detroit. Not only have they never won a Super Bowl, they're one of the 12 teams to never win it. They've never made a Super Bowl. They've never appeared in the big game. So this will be the first time in their long franchise history that they make the Super Bowl. They already broke their playoff drought. It was the longest playoff win drought in current sports right now, and they broke that. They huge 2 wins back-to-back, beating Los Angeles Rams, beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're going to have a real shot against San Francisco. I'm taking San Francisco this game. I think they're the most talented team in the league. Not the best. That's Baltimore, but they're the most talented. And the only real hurdle that San Francisco offense has had has been weather. It hasn't been opposing defenses. It's been rain. That's the 2 bad games on offense that they've really had is rain, because their quarterback, Brock Purdy, who's been a great story, last pick in the draft last year, came in, led his team. He's been a fantastic story. Just can't play in the rain. I don't know what it is. He's got small hands. He just can't throw when it's wet. And it's going to be really, really nice in San Francisco this weekend. Ooh. So that's not going to be an issue. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My one big question mark with that game is, 49ers have more talent. They have a very conservative coach. Doesn't go for it on a lot of 4th downs. Punts when maybe he could, go for it. Decides to kneel it out for the half with 50 seconds left last week instead of trying to go score with one of the best offenses in the league. He's facing the most aggressive coach in football. Dan Campbell will go. He goes for it more often on 4th down than any team in the league. Sometimes when it's just ill-advised, it's like he's playing Madden. It's seriously like he's playing a video game. He'll be on his own 35, 4th and 4. He's going for it.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that one. And then Ravens Chiefs.
We in fairness, you're a big Chiefs fan, right?
Huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. And most of the time when people would pick against Patrick LaVon Mahomes, I'd say, you're crazy.
No, you threw the middle name in there.
Oh, yeah. Patrick LaVon Mahomes II, I should say. You don't want to play him in the playoffs. Obviously, he's been incredible. And this would just add to the litany of historic wins that he's had. This could be the best team he's ever faced in the playoffs. As far as DVOA is concerned, an algorithm that, just tests his team's overall capabilities. It's a well-renowned stat. They're a top 10, the Baltimore Ravens, that is, a top 10 DVOA team of all time.
What's DVOA?
It's this big algorithm that ranks a bunch of different stuff, looking at your offense, looking at your ability to run the ball. Right. Yeah, a lot of analytics.
What does it stand for,
Gosh, I used to. Now you've got me. Gosh dang it.
Stumped him.
Yeah, you did stump me. Dang it. All right, well, either way, they're an amazing team. And so this is going to be a tall task for the Kansas City Chiefs, but when you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame tight end and a Hall of Fame coach,
wow,
some crazy things can happen. So I'm excited. I'm picking the Chiefs because I'm a Chiefs fan. If someone picked the Ravens, I wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, your thoughts?
I want to pull for Detroit to beat San Francisco, so I'm gonna say they're gonna win, even though they are playing out in San Francisco. And sorry, Mac, you say Baltimore's the best team, so I'm going to pick the Ravens.
I got you.
Well, at my house, the Cabana wife comes from Michigan, so we're going to be rooting for the Detroit Lions. But
That's awesome.
It's sort of you really want to see them get one,
Yeah, I get it.
But I've got to tell you, that Ravens team, when I watched them the other day, I said, man, they're fast, they're agile, they're quick, they're relentless. And they seem to be like a notch above everybody else in the way they play the game. So I think the Ravens, I'm not crazy about Balmerhan, but I still think the Ravens probably will win this one. All right. Well, listen, great conversation. We'll get together on Monday and see who was right. It is now time to take off the sports hat, put on the news hat, because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:31, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 57 degrees right now in Nashville. Coming up, a traffic report, weather forecast in 5 minutes. Taylor Swift fans are outraged over sexually explicit AI-generated images of the singer flooding social media this week. One post got more than 45 million views on X, formerly known as Twitter, before it was removed. Karen Travers has reaction from the White House.
The White House tells me it's alarmed by the fake sexually explicit AI-generated images of Taylor Swift that appeared on social media this week. There is no federal law in the U.S. that would prevent or deter someone from creating and sharing non-consensual deepfake images. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre telling me lax enforcement online disproportionately impacts women and girls.
Congress should take legislative action. That's how you deal with some of these issues, obviously. But it is alarming to us, and we're going to continue to do what we can from the federal government.
Crime in Tennessee. A 91-year-old woman was robbed at a Truist Bank off of Whites Creek Pike. She tried to run away. She was pushed down by these criminals. They took her money. 2 suspects are at large from this, while 32-year-old DeAndre Robertson was arrested in this crime. And 2 hours before this happened, a similar crime was reported at the Truist Bank in Brentwood. Robinson was seen at that crime as well. And the push to reduce plastic bag use may be having the opposite effect in one state. Here's Derek Dennis.
With states cracking down on plastic pollution and enacting laws to reduce or eliminate plastic bag use, you may wonder, is it working? New Jersey instituted a single-use plastic bag ban in 2022, but MarketResearch.com reports while the ban led to a 60% decrease in total bag volume, consumers switched to reusable plastic bags. The result, according to researchers, plastic consumption has tripled because many reusable bags are a non-woven polypropylene, a form of plastic which is not widely recyclable.
And that is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, listen, phone your Farb Friday straight ahead, 615-737-9986. In the meantime, let me tell you about DT McCall. Listen, they've been around for more than 100 years. And one of the things about a company that's been around for more than 100 years is you have to think, well, how did they survive that long? Well, they survived that long by actually having a great relationship with their customers. They also treat people right with giving you an honest price when they tell you what something's going to cost. See, at the big box stores, you buy an appliance and they give you a price and you think, well, that's an amazing price. I'll buy that. But then you find out they charge extra for delivery and the setup and the haul away and the doodads that make the thing work, like hoses and cables. And so you find out at the end of it wasn't really a good deal at all. Now, at DT McCall's, they're going to give you a great price, but they're also going to give you an honest price that includes all those things. You'll never pay extra for delivery, haul away, setup, or the cords and hoses that make the thing work. They are also known for trying to do whenever possible. They buy and sell products that are, that are made here in Middle Tennessee. That's keeping the dollars local. England furniture is made in Middle Tennessee. How about this mattress that they have? This made in Middle Tennessee. It's a great mattress. You're going to love it. I have one. It's great. So listen, there's so many reasons to like DT McCall. If you need something for your home, go to their website and find out about their convenient locations nearest you. Just go to dtmccalls.com. All right, DVOA, Defense Adjusted Value Average, over average. Calculation of a team's success based on the down and distance of each play during the season, then calculates how much or less, more or less successful each team is compared to the league average.
Thank you.
That's it. Well, I can't imagine why you didn't have that on the tip of your tongue.
No, my bad. Who am I?
Yeah. Also, we had just breaking news, just a little bit of breaking news. The charges against musician Chris Young have been dropped.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. We'll talk about that in the next hour. Right now, time for Phone Your Farb Friday. That's right, 615-737-9986. This is your chance to get whatever's off your chest. If it's bugging you, you got a bee in your bonnet, a burr in your saddle, or a bug in a place that, well, I hope you really never, ever have a bug. Hey. Just get on our 100,000 watt soapbox. I got to write this down someday. 100,000 watt soapbox and just express yourself within boundaries, because it is a family show. And I promise you, we don't want to use the red button. Still, we got some phone lines open. Some people are already stacked up, ready to go. Got a few phone lines open. Let's fill up those phone lines. Let me know what's on your mind. Here we go. We'll start with Philip in Manchester. Philip, you're on with Brian on the drive. Philip, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian, I got 3 questions with a bonus question.
Okay, number one.
First question is, how do you maintain your boots? Mink oil, kiwi. I heard you had an extensive boot collection.
Well, I do have an extensive boot collection. I've been collecting. The thing about if you take care of boots, they never wear out. And if they do wear out, you can put a new sole on them, a new heel on them, and just keep going. So I have a lot of boots that I've collected over the years, but I'm just basically a spit and polish guy. Just, put some polish on there and just buff them out. I think the real key there, actually, to be honest with you, is to use a little water on your brush. I have a horsehair brush, no kidding, that my dad got when he was in the military, he was in the Germany during the Korean conflict, and he got a horsehair brush that the Army gave him, and I still use that brush, and it does a great job. So that's how I do it.
Well, I'll just skip to the bonus question next. Then you answered pretty much all of my questions right there. But the bonus question is your boot collection larger than your guitar collection?
No. Sadly, my guitar collection is completely out of control. But I have vowed that this is the year that I'll thin the herd a little bit. So, there may be a big guitar sale here at Brian's house before long. Thank you for the call. How about Sean in Spring Hill? Sean, you're on with Brian. And by the way, we do have some phone lines open, 615-737-9986. Sean, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm just frustrated, and I want to know your opinion on this. Why has Biden not been impeached? In the last administration, Trump was impeached over a phone call. Yep. And, everybody says it's the number one issue, the border's the number one issue. The Iowa caucus, people coming out said that. Then the New Hampshire primary, everybody coming out, that's the number one issue. Well, Republicans can do something about it, and then they don't do it. Why not? Why are they not impeaching him? He took an oath of office to, uphold the laws of the land, and he's not doing it. To me, it's a slam dunk. And then, you could argue that, well, the Senate would never convict him. Well, I think some Democrats would squirm if they found, if it was found that the constituents find out that their Democratic senator voted not to impeach him.
Well, let me see if I can answer that for you. Would the House of Representatives be able to impeach him if they felt like that he had done something? And I think you're right. I think it is. I think personally, it is an impeachable offense. But let's play that out. What happens? It goes to the Democrat-controlled Senate, and nothing will happen. So is it an act of futility? It would be to some degree. Now, I here's what I would say. We are going to impeach Mayorkas. That's going to happen. I mean, there's a I forget the date, but it's sometime in February where this is going to go to the floor of the House, and they're going to bring articles of impeachment, and they're going to do it, and he's going to be impeached. And you know what? I bet there are about 10 or 12, maybe 14 Democrats who vote to impeach him because he has not done the job right. And he has, not followed the responsibility that he had to enforce the laws of the land. But I think you're right. The buck stops a little higher. The problem is, what will happen then now with the Mayorkas? He'll go to the Senate. I don't know. There may be some Democrats over there. But one way or the other, they're going to have to be put on record. And I think that's just a fine thing. I don't know why they don't do it. I think that they're doing the whole thing right now in the investigation of Hunter Biden. They think that that's the track that they want to follow because the investigation of Hunter Biden is really an investigation into Joe Biden. And the question that they're asking is, did he violate the law? Was there a quid pro quo? That kind of thing. And it's been sort of slow in that front lately. I don't know why. I'd like to know more about that. All right, listen. Up next is a guy that, I think he's got one of the greatest voices. His name is Tiny, and apparently he's not. Tiny, what's on your mind today out on the road?
Well, I was just wondering if maybe Mother Nature beat us to the development of GPS systems.
In what
lemmings
way?
have been following each other over the cliff into the ocean for years before truck drivers started taking roads that are not approved for trucks. And I live in Macon County, and we've had a rash of trucks on unapproved roads, and the wreckers are making a lot of money.
I didn't know that there were approved and unapproved roads.
Actually, there are. They used to be listed on the Truckers Road Atlases.
Mm-hmm.
But those are you might find one in the Smithsonian.
All right. Well, I have one in the back of my car, but I hadn't heard that. Well, listen, Tiny, I don't know. I'll look into it. That's a new one on me. David in Columbia, you're up next on the drive. What's on your mind, David?
Good afternoon. Just a little homework for you. Pull up, Google you remember the movie Deliverance?
I remember. Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. From that very scene, pull up the boy playing the banjo, and then pull up Biden, and I'm just saying. There you go.
Okay, hold on a minute, just a second. I think, Chris, that made me laugh so hard I can't even.
You got to give it to him.
You got to give it to him. Congratulations, David from Columbia. You're our grand prize winner today. I mean, you said something that truly made me laugh out loud, and I think a lot of people. Yeah, I think there are some similarities there. But you're our grand prize winner today.
Tell him what he wins.
You win absolutely nothing because this cheap place won't give us any money for prizes.
Never mind.
Sorry, but you get a handshake, a pat on the back, and a good old-fashioned attaboy. David from Columbia, you're our grand prize winner today. All right. Well, let's see. We got time for a few more. Bill, and I can't see where you're from. Estelle Springs. I'm sorry. Bill, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I wanted to get your opinion. Is there any possibility through these investigations, perhaps, to subpoena the phone records of the White House and their discussions with Obama to see what kind of role he has played in all of this with the border and other things? And could you go after him for collusion and his part in these potential crimes?
I don't think so, because I think there's a thing called executive privilege. That that the deliberations that the administration goes through are protected. So, the idea here, and this works for our presidents and their presidents. I mean, every president has this executive privilege. Sometimes it's abused, but the idea there is that when you're deciding a certain policy or a certain thing, then you need to have a free flow of ideas and an unfettered conversation. And if everybody knew that one day that those records would be pulled up, then they would not be willing to give you their best advice. And so that's the idea behind executive privilege, as I understand it. And, I think executive privilege would prevent that. But to your larger point, yeah, I mean, it seems pretty clear somebody's pulling the puppet master strings, because Biden doesn't know what's going on. I mean, after all, he looks like the guy from Deliverance, the banjo player. I mean, remember? All right. Thank you for that. Sybil in Carthage, you're up next on the drive.
Hello?
Hey, Sybil, you're up.
Hi. I'm just calling about, I heard some news recently about a lab in California that was started by an illegal Chinese doctor that was here, and it had all kinds of viruses in it, like Ebola and et cetera. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not, but I'll dig around on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to know more about that. Thought I heard it on the news one day, but I didn't hear much about it and would like to know more of what's going on.
All right. I will promise you that I'll dig into it. Thank you for the call, Sybil. I appreciate it. We'll wrap it up with Dale from Goodlettsville. Dale, you're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind?
Well, Brian, I'd like to ask a favor of you.
Okay.
If you could pull up a fella by the name of Alexander Fraser, Fraser, Titler, Tytler, and read a little 2-paragraph thing this man wrote a little over 200 years ago about the largesse of democracy. And your listeners will realize that is where our country is right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you find these people who just seem to have, some sort of, vision for what's going to happen, and you hear things and you say, "Wow, that was done a long time ago," and it certainly seems to describe where we're headed now. People who just have apparently this ability to see around corners. That's they're rare. But I will look. I have not heard of this guy, but I'll look it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Good 2 rounds. We had a winner today. We don't always have winners, so that's a good thing. It's 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
6 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 55 degrees in Nashville. Tracking rainfall this weekend. Forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The verdict is in the Donald Trump defamation case. The former president has been ordered to pay $83.3 million in damages to E. Jean Carroll. His attorney, Alina Habas, spoke to the media after the verdict.
There was no proof, and I couldn't prove that she didn't bring in the dress. There was no DNA. There was no expert. My experts were denied. Two of them were denied to come in. They didn't let me bring up that Reid Hoffman funded Miss Kaplan. And you know what we got in there? That my witness, who was her friend, who said that she is a drug addict and the drug addict is herself. That friend, I found out in there, was paid for by Miss Kaplan's firm, and that is disgusting. That is a violation of everything I stand for, and that is why I stand with Trump.
And Habas says that this is all happening because Trump is leading in the polls. Crime update in Tennessee. Nashville District Attorney Lynn Funk dismissed against all charges against the country music Chris Young. Young was at a bar on Demumbrian Street this Monday when some Tennessee ABC agents walked in for a compliance check. They asked Young for his ID. The arrest report states that Young assaulted these agents trying to get more information. The security footage shows no assault and then Young getting handcuffed. Funk said his office reviewed all evidence in the case and determined all charges will be dismissed. And the Biden administration says it's still optimistic that bipartisan Senate negotiators will come to an agreement on border security that also provides funds for the wars in Ukraine and Israel. Karen Travers.
The White House says it's still optimistic that bipartisan Senate negotiators can reach an agreement on border policy changes. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre would not weigh in on former President Trump telling congressional Republicans to squash any Senate deal because it would be, quote, another gift to the radical left Democrats.
House Republicans, they have a choice to make, right? They have to choose whether they want to solve a problem, actually solve a problem like the Senate is trying to do in a bipartisan way, or get in the way and score political points.
And right now in Tennessee, Fox 17 reports that council members in Murfreesboro have approved of a new skate park to be built. The skate park and pump track will be built in Old Fort Park. Construction set to begin this year with an estimated completion date sometime in the fall. That project will cost nearly $900,000. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hello, everyone. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, our fourth hour on Friday. We I've enjoyed both of our rounds today of Phone Your Farb Friday. It was good stuff, and I really appreciate your participation in that. It's about the hardest I've laughed in a long time. You're right. Joe Biden does look like the banjo player in Deliverance. I mean,
it's kind of creepy. He does.
I actually looked at it just a moment ago, and I said, "Yep, that's it. That's the guy. That guy grew up to be Joe Biden. Who knew? I didn't know that." Well, anyway, we got a lot of stuff to cover here. I want to mention, you heard it in the news, and we'll get into it in a bit longer, in a few minutes. Chris Young, charges have been dropped after that incident that occurred on Monday night. At 5 o'clock on a Friday, Glenn Funk releases information that charges will be dropped. Review of the evidence, the case will be dismissed. We'll talk about that. And I think there's a lesson to be learned by me for sure about all this, and we'll talk about that coming up. Right now, I've got to talk once again about the situation down on the Texas border, where I would have to say it's tense. Because on one hand, you got the federal government saying, you need to get out of that park, Texas, in Eagle Pass. You need to get out of that park. We need access to it. And by the way, we have the Supreme Court ruling that says that we can cut your concertina wire. And on the other hand, you got the state of Texas saying, we're not going anywhere. We're not moving. We're not budging. And you know what? You cut the wire, we'll just put some more back. They're being very defiant. But when you hear Governor Abbott's explanation, now I have it's about 3 minutes. But I think it really is a very cogent explanation of why they feel so strongly. And of course, I think that they're absolutely right to do what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. But he has a really good legal argument that backs up why he's doing what he's doing. We just don't hear much about it. Bear with me for 3 minutes or so while you hear Texas governor lay out the constitutional case for what they are doing and why they are doing it.
So it was the states that created the United States. And when the states voted to create the United States and have a constitution, included in that agreement was the compact that the federal government would take care of the states. And Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution speaks to that and says that if the federal government does not take care of the states, then the states are in danger, we can ask the federal government to live up to its obligation. Then the authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense. And what Texas is asserting is our Article 1, Section 10 right of self-defense, because the President of the United States is not fulfilling his duty to enforce the laws passed by Congress that deny illegal entry into the United States. Because the Biden administration has really, truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws, Texas very simply is securing the border. And so we put up the razor wire that you were talking about, and we put up all these barricades that actually have denied illegal entry. Texas has a right as a state to stop criminals from coming into our state, to make arrests of those criminals. And we have National Guard as well as Texas Department of Public Safety officers who are there to make those arrests and to deny illegal entry. And Joe Biden actually does have an option here. Joe Biden's option is to enforce the laws of the United States and stop this illegal entry. If you look at what the Supreme Court actually issued, they didn't write any type of opinion. All they did was to vacate a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals order and to send it back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's 2 sentences. There was no opinion about anything about razor wire or what Texas is doing or anything like that. The Constitution itself provides Texas with a right of self-defense in this case because the United States has abandoned its responsibility to defend Texas. I don't know how and why the justices voted the way they did, but there seemed to be 4 justices who indicated at least an appetite to hear the case as is. There were no sentences or paragraphs or pages of an opinion written by the Supreme Court, so no one knows at all what they were thinking. All we know is they wanted to send it back to the Fifth Circuit.
Well, okay, so he's saying it's all about Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. I'm going to read it to you. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in times of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with any other state or with the foreign powers, or engage in war unless, and there's the key, actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Well, what they're saying, we are in imminent danger, and we are being invaded. And we have the right in the state of Texas, he says, to protect ourselves from criminals coming across the border. It's a pretty powerful argument, really, and that's not what the Supreme Court was asked to rule on. They were ruling on another thing, which was Article 4, Section 4, and that gave, the Supreme Court actually did not rule. They simply said, and there was no ruling, there was no paragraph, no sentence. They just said, we're sending it back, which meant the lower court ruling would be the one that stood in Article 4, Section 4 argument. So he's got an argument, I think, and it's pretty interesting to listen to him sort of expound upon it. But what is going to happen here, however, is that he's going to stand his ground, and at some point the federal government's got to decide whether they want to fish or cut bait and they want to push the issue. And if they do, it's going to get pretty interesting. There are 25 Republican governors, 25, that's every Republican governor in the United States, have gone on record as saying they support what Abbott is doing. Now, that's a lot of support. And by the way, some of these governors are actually talking about, well, maybe I'll just send some of my National Guard troops down there. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said he actually would send the National Guard to the Texas border. He's done it before. By the way, the state of Tennessee has done it before. Governor Lee has sent Tennessee National Guard to Texas for a time in support of Operation Lone Star. And, I have a feeling if push comes to shove, there'll be a lot of Republican governors are willing to send down their National Guard to stand with the Texas National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety against the federal government. I mean, I think that could happen. So I expect that the federal government will blink on this one. I don't think that they want to have that happen during an election year. But nonetheless, I mean, the issues that are at play here are really big. Really big. And, you got Karine Jean-Pierre taking shots against Governor Abbott from the White House.
It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And it's not making people's lives safer. It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job. And so we have been very clear. We want to make sure we get something done at the border. That's why we've been having these conversations with Senate Republicans and Democrats for the past several weeks to come up with a bipartisan agreement to deal with the border. And look, if the governor is not interested in that. Governor Abbott is not interested in that. He wants to politicize an issue, and he's not helping communities. He actually isn't. And he's actually putting Border Patrol agents in harm's way by doing what he's doing.
He's not politicizing the issue. He's defending his state, which is exactly what a governor ought to do. It's actually what the president of the United States ought to do, but I think that is lost upon the current president of the United States. Man, she just unbelievable. Now she mentions that we're trying to work out some kind of deal with some senators, and let me give you the background on that. There's two standoffs. One is down actually on the border. The other is in Washington, where the Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Republicans in the Senate, so far, most of them have been willing to say, you know what? We're not going to give you any money for Ukraine or Israel or any of the other things you want. And we may even, stand our ground on passing certain budget items. If you don't do something, Mr. President, to make the situation on the border better. And so there have been these behind the closed door, smoky room negotiations that have been going on between the White House and a handful of senators and some Republicans in the room, but not many. And somehow working behind the scenes to try to bring this all together. is Mitch McConnell, who is very much in favor of sending more money to Ukraine and wants to see the border problem solved as well. He's been working on it. But you know what? The whole thing seems to be falling apart. There was, on Tuesday, they have a policy luncheon where all the Republicans get in one room and they talk about things that are on their mind in the Senate, and the Senate Democrats get in their own little luncheon and they talk about policy. It happens on Tuesday. It's a sort of a regular deal. And there apparently was nearly a knockdown dragout in the Republican meeting. People like Ted Cruz and a whole bunch of other folks were just, apoplectic about the fact that there was all of this talk about a border deal, and we were going to be asked to vote on a border deal, and nobody knew what was in the damn border deal. And then they said, in no uncertain terms, this is not going to stand. And apparently it got heated. I'm surprised that, they didn't go to Fist City in there. And so, that deal blew up. And now we have this thing from the Speaker of the House who says that, I never really got to see what the border deal was. But if it's what I've heard that it was, it would have been dead on arrival in the House of Representatives. A letter went out today. I wanted to provide a brief update regarding the supplemental and the border, since the Senate appears unable to reach any agreement. If rumors about the contents of the draft proposal are true, it would have been dead on arrival in the House anyway. The letter comes as Senate Republicans are searching for an alternative plan because some of them want to spend a bunch of money on Ukraine. So there. I don't know exactly what was in it, but I've heard some things, and what I heard I don't like, says Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. So that thing is blowing up completely. Look, the bottom line is that the Biden administration doesn't seem willing to change their course of action. And I'm beginning to wonder why in the world, when for example, that the number one thing that were on the mind of voters in Iowa and New Hampshire was immigration. When you see national polls that say the same thing, people are upset about what they're seeing on the immigration front. Why would the Democrats stand their ground on this? And I can't find a good answer to that question, because if it's an election year and you know that people are upset with you, why would you continue to follow the same policy? Why wouldn't Biden, understand that he has to do something if he wants to get reelected? That's the question I keep coming back to. I'm trying to think of it from, what makes sense about this? And the only thing that I can figure out, and I'm beginning to believe this more and more, is that Biden is trying to get as far down the path as he can possibly get as many people through the gate as he possibly can while he's president, because he knows he's not really going to be the nominee. I'm beginning to wonder if they have sort of this evil plan. Biden does all the dirty work, and then, they get to the convention and they do the big switcheroo, and then you got a new candidate. You can't blame him for the things that Biden did. I'm really wondering, is that the game here? Because it doesn't make any sense. I've never believed, that Biden is going to be the nominee. I just can't believe that Obama and the power brokers of the Democrat Party are going to allow that to happen, because if the way things look right now, he's going to get shellacked. Now, that's what I would like to see happen, but I just don't think they're dumb enough to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are that dumb. But that's pretty dumb. That's really pretty dumb. It's 20 minutes now past the hour at 6 o'clock on Super Talk. My friends at Genesis Diamonds are psyched up for the new year. A lot of great things are happening, and they're ready to help you celebrate those important milestones throughout the year with better value, higher quality, and uncompromising customer care. You see, at Genesis, they've expanded their selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds from half carats all the way up to 15 carats, all shapes, all sizes, at Genesis' famous no middleman prices. Genesis has also got the lab-grown diamonds of the highest quality at prices way below what you will see at other jewelers. They have brought in even more exclusive designer jewelry, new, cutting-edge fashion forward rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, pendants, things you can't find in other places. And, of course, Genesis is proud to offer truly spectacular collections of luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. They have all the most popular models in stock. So get to Genesis in 2024 and let their non-commission experts help you celebrate those important milestones. They guarantee the best value, the highest quality, and the strongest warranties and guarantees in the jewelry industry. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Friday. We're starting to wind down the week and get ready to start the weekend. I've just been told by reliable sources that there may be some inchies and markies in my future.
Ooh, lucky you.
Yeah, and we're going to, apparently with Mexican food tonight. It's on the dinner. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just that, I'm not really supposed to have a drink because I did the dry January thing, and it's not quite the end of January yet. But I think maybe I've earned one. Yeah, I mean, close is good enough. What? I don't know.
The problem is that one is never quite enough.
Yeah, I know. Listen, there are, it's the thing that happens 5 o'clock on a Friday. You sometimes get these little stories that drop into your plate. And we have one here in Nashville. And Chris, I must tell you, I think I did this story on Wednesday the first time. I think it was Wednesday.
I think so.
That there had been a thing that happened at a Nashville bar up on Demumbrian Hill, and with a country singer by the name of Chris Young. Now, the initial story quoted, I forget where I found the initial story. I think it might have been in the Tennessean, but one way or the other, it quoted the police report. And the police report went on and said, well, they followed us from one bar to the other, a group of people, including Chris Young, and we were just doing, ID checks, and he followed us to the second bar, and then he struck me on the shoulder, and then we arrested him. And so we said, wow. I mean, first of all, the question we had was, why would you follow him from one bar to the other? Seemed like, that was something that you probably could have ended it, by not following. And I began to wonder, what was the guy, they said he was bleary-eyed, and they never said he was drunk. But, I don't know, because maybe he didn't want to take a breathalyzer test, one way or the other. There was all this stuff, but it all came from the police report, and the police report was filed by the Alcohol Beverage Commission folks, the ABC. They were in there doing, ID checks. Well, that was, I think, Wednesday. Then I think it was Thursday. There was a second story, and it was basically that there was a video from the bar when the arrest was made, and it was put out there by his attorney, Chris Young's attorney. And I'm telling you, Chris, back me up. We posted it, and you may have seen it by now. It didn't back up the story that he tried to shove him in the shoulder.
No.
He simply reached out like he was trying to get his attention, and the next thing you know, he's there was he was pretty much thrown to the ground, arrested, and taken into custody. It didn't really go down the way he said it did. Now, we don't know what was said, but the evidence was pretty clear here that what is reported in the police report is not what happened. And now comes word this evening from WSMV. Days after the video was released of the incident involving Chris Young's arrest at a Nashville bar, District Attorney General Glenn Funk announced charges against the country singer have been dropped. After a review of all the evidence in the case, the Office of the District Attorney has determined that these charges will be dismissed. On Wednesday, Young's attorney released a statement after the country artist was arrested following an altercation at 10. Well, I don't think it was an altercation. I mean, he didn't start an altercation at 10 Roof and Demumbrian Street. The singer was arrested Monday night, charged with disorderly conduct, assaulting an officer, and resisting arrest. The arrest followed some kind of disagreement with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission agents. A new video from the incident released by Young's attorney showed a different story. What happened to my client, Chris Young, at the bar in Nashville on Monday night was wrong, and he should never have been arrested and charged in the first place, says Bill Ramsey, Young's attorney. In light of the video evidence, Tennessee ABC needs to drop the charges and apologize, and today, District Attorney General Glenn Funk did just that, dropping the charges. So, a cautionary tale, I suppose, that when we get these reports, and we generally, we go with these police reports and we tell you what's in them, we need to leave open the idea that that's just one side of the story. So a lesson learned by this reporter, and I promise going forward, I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical of things like that. Right now, 30 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Maybe during the cold snap, you had problems with your heater, or maybe you had some problems with your plumbing. I mean, a lot of people did. Well, I hope that you had this number nearby. I mean, remember it if you ever have problems. Again, 615-775-7833. That's the number to Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing. And they will buzz over to your hive, and they'll get things straightened out for you as soon as possible. I mean, I tell you, I've had some things that had to happen, and it had to happen quick, and they've always been there for me. And I don't think it's just because I do their commercials. I think they truly try to help people out when they're in a bind. So listen, here's the number again, 615-775-7833. Now, the way you avoid having problems on these systems is that you do preventative maintenance, and that's what the Beehive Club is all about. For $99, that's the starting price. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one at the beginning of each heating season, and one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com. It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for the last few minutes of this show. The last hour of this week. We'll be back on Monday, of course. Then we turn it over to Mark Levin after the news in the 7 o'clock hour. You ready? We got a lot of things we want to cover, a lot of different things. This story, Chris, I think you're going to find interesting. I mean, the loony left coast. I mean, the things they come up with, and they try to impose. And the thing about this is that they pulled this trick a lot of times in the past. So many people buy cars in California. It's such a big car market that they will pass a state law that says we want this out of our cars, and we're not going to sell any cars in this state that don't have this, that, or the other. Right? I mean, they did that with those big 5-mile-an-hour bumpers. Remember how ugly those things were when they first came out? And then and everybody had to have it. And then, they do this, that, and the other, and they're always trying to impose their will on the rest. The reason it works is that automakers say, well, we can't make 2 kinds of cars. You know, we got to make a car that we can sell anywhere in America, and so they end up rolling over on it and doing whatever it is that California wants. That's my concern in this particular case, and it makes me pretty dadgum sure that I'm going to hold on to my F-150 until the wheels come off of it. You ready? The premise of a new bill in California that's in the Senate right now would require that all vehicles sold in the state be equipped with speed governors to limit how fast they can go.
Oh, I saw this.
Oh, hell no. No. Listen, there's no reason why people should routinely be allowed to drive more than 10 miles an hour above the speed limit. Said this guy is, I forget, Scott Wiener. That's his name. Scott Wiener, Democrat from San Francisco. Wiener said in an interview with the Times, you can want whatever you want, but that doesn't mean you're allowed to do it, and that doesn't mean you should be physically able to do it. The measure, Senate Bill 961, would require every passenger vehicle, truck, and bus manufactured or sold in California to have speed governors starting in 2027. The devices would use GPS technology or cameras to verify the speed limit in a particular area and slow a speeding vehicle down if it approaches 10 miles over the limit. Wiener said he's open to changes in the bill as to whether to require active or passive speed governors. Active speed governors would actually reduce the speed of cars that hit the 10-mile-an-hour limit, while passive ones would make some sort of annoying sound or buzz to warn drivers that it's time to slow down. The European Union passed legislation that requires passive speed governors in all cars sold in member countries starting in July, which is why the UK no doubt got out of the European Union. Oh man, this irritates me more than you can know. It's supposed to be is it likely to be met with some opposition from certain trucking groups that have similarly opposed federal legislation regarding speed governors. No.
I just don't have confidence that it would work properly.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going to happen when you're driving a car and you're on an interstate or a highway where the speed limit is 55 or 65 or whatever it is, but all of a sudden your car decides, oh no, the speed limit is 35.
Yeah.
And then it just automatically slows down for you, and then you get plowed into from behind by a car that's going the speed limit just because your car malfunctioned.
Yeah. You know, I remember when I first, when seatbelts became a thing, there was, they came in and so, look, I mean, I think most everybody agrees wearing a seatbelt's a good thing. Sure. But in the day when they did the shoulder harnesses for the first time, it used to be just a lap belt. Mm-hmm. I know young people are stunned and amazed. We used to have just lap belts. Well, I mean, even before that, you had your mother's elbow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember sitting in the front seat of the car, and my mom, if she had to stop quickly, she would throw out her right arm and cut you right off in the esophagus to keep you from slamming into the dash. And then we got the seat belts, the lap belts, and everybody hated those. And then they came with the shoulder harnesses, which was the last thing. And I remember during that time that I went through a series of news cars, and I was the only one driving the news car. So, I sort of considered it my own personal car, and probably shouldn't have, but I did. And you would get into the car, and if you didn't get the thing buckled up, there was a buzzer. It was an annoying buzzer. Mm-hmm. Well, the car company said, well, we're being required to put the buzzer in, and then But what we all learned very quickly is you could get under the dash and yank that buzzer out of there. I threw up about 4 of them into the parking lot across the street from the radio station I was working at the time. They'd give me a new car. First thing I'd do is take that buzzer out. Well, now you can't do that. They still will ding at you and ding at you and ding at you. But, it was annoying. Can you imagine... you're in a hurry to get somewhere. Maybe you've got an emergency.
Yeah.
You're trying to get down the road in a hurry. I remember that time when I had to take Cabana wife to the doctor, and it was an emergency. And believe me, I violated some speed laws to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
They're going to tell me I can't do that. I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea. But what I really don't like is the government just get their stinking nose into everything we do, I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I just don't like that idea at all.
And and I can understand the premise of it. Sure, I can understand wanting people to follow speed limits or not drive as fast. People drive too fast here, I think.
Yeah, maybe sometimes.
But that's not the way to do it.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Look, there was another story I didn't get into this week. That was an argument being made for doing away with HOV lanes. I wish I still had that story sitting around. I never got to it because there was other stuff going on that day. But the argument was, do we really need HOV lanes? And is it the best way to, move people down the highway? And, the idea here is that, you're trying to save the environment and you're trying to, have people, use the lanes efficiently. So you were supposed to give them an incentive if they carpooled. At certain hours in the morning, going in, and certain hours in the afternoon, coming back, you could get into the HOV, high occupancy vehicle lane. And, in some places, it's HOV 3. Most places, it's HOV 2. Well, we have that here, and nobody pays attention to it.
Nah.
I mean, I can't begin to tell you, why do we have them? Why do we have them if they're not going to enforce the rule? And if you think the rule is stupid, then let's just do away with the HOV lanes.
Take the sign down.
Take the sign down. Yep. I mean, practically now. I mean, I bet you, within the sound of my voice right now, it'd be hard pressed to find anybody in the state of Tennessee that got a Tennessee ticket for violating HOV rules, because I don't think they ever enforce it.
Yeah, I don't think they do either.
I've never seen it. And all the times that I was driving back and forth, I never saw it, not once. I feel bad. I mean, like sometimes I'd forget about it. And oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong lane. So I'd get right over. And then, 5 people would pass me. There's just one person in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But the larger picture, the larger question was, in some places they do enforce it. In fact, in Maryland, when I lived there, it was very strictly enforced. And it was a big fine if you got caught in the HOV lane. And the question is, well, how many people are actually using the HOV lanes? And is it really worth it? Do you get that much benefit by, the same number of cars are going to be on the road one way or the other, it would seem, and aren't many people are using it. Wouldn't it be better to open up that lane and let people get to work quicker? I don't know. There's a lot of things about that bother me. Here's something else that bothers me. The Biden administration has halted an enormous natural gas project because the environmentalists wanted it. From Fox News, the White House is halting the permitting process for several proposed liquefied natural gas export terminal projects over their potential impacts on the climate. In a joint announcement Friday, the White House and the Department of Energy, DOE, said that the pause would occur while federal officials conduct a rigorous environmental review assessing the project's carbon emissions, which would take more than a year to complete. Climate activists have loudly taken aim at LNG export projects in recent weeks, arguing they will lead to a large uptick in emissions and worsen global warming. But here's the other thing it does. The demand for liquefied natural gas is not going to go down. The demand will remain what the demand is. Somebody's going to sell liquefied natural gas to fill that demand. In places like, some of our allies in Europe and our allies in Asia, they count on American liquefied natural gas to fuel their economies and to keep people warm, et cetera, and all that kind of stuff. You know who's going to fill that gap? Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran will fill that gap. And when they fill that gap, you're going to have, the same amount of liquefied natural gas is going to be used around the world. It's just that Russia and Iran are going to be enriched and the United States will not. Again, it's like, I cannot believe some of the things that the Biden administration is doing these days. In an election year, This is not going to go well over in Louisiana, where they're going to build one of these big terminals. Maybe they just decide, well, it's probably going to be a Republican, election in Louisiana anyway. So I don't know, but I just keep reading these things that they're trying to do, and it doesn't make any political sense to me. It doesn't make any sense just from the standpoint it's a dumb policy, but it also, why are they doing something this politically volatile in an election year? And I think the answer is Biden's not going to be the nominee. I keep coming back to that. A lot of Republicans very upset about it, talking about Iran, talking about Russia, and they say, that this is another boneheaded idea that comes from the Biden administration. Now, I want to read, while I've got a minute or two left, some of the numbers that are in, speaking of politics. There's a general election poll that came out from Reuters Ipsos today that said if it was Biden versus Trump or Trump versus Biden, Trump would win by 6. Now, that's about the third poll that's been 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that range. The average right now is just a hair under 4 if you go with the Real Clear Politics average. But again, it's starting to look like Trump is pulling away. And as far as the GOP nomination is concerned, I've got 2 polls that came in here today. One has Trump leading Haley by 63 points. And I got another one here where Trump is leading Haley by 45. I think everybody can now see that Nikki Haley is not going to be the GOP nominee, except perhaps for Nikki Haley. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock.